What's up, it's G Mosley. This is Impact Storytelling, 15 storytelling skills and tips for storytelling and writing. And what I want to talk about now is building rapport, because this is very important. You know, you can have one of the greatest stories in the world, but none of that matter if you do not first establish a connection with your audience. I don't care if you're writing to them. I don't care if you're speaking to them. You must build rapport, and all rapport is building a connection. So I want to give you a couple of tips on how you can do that. I want to talk about it in a public speaking scene, because this is something that you will write no matter if you are speaking it or you're writing it, but it's better if I show it to you. So one of the most effective ways I've developed, I've discovered that you can develop rapport with an audience is to ask them a question. And the best words that I've learned is something that I've learned when studying marketing, is asking people, have you ever? Okay. Now, for example, my message is helping people overcome their empty closets. Now, the empty closet is a metaphor that represents a time in our life that we felt we weren't good enough, we wasn't worthy. And that came from my daddy leaving when I was 11 years old, 2 weeks after he told me he wasn't going to leave the family. So therefore, I was standing in front of this empty closet and I felt I was unworthy. Okay. So when I address the audience and I want to tell my story, I start out and I ask him, have you ever felt you wasn't good enough? Have you ever had those times in your life that you felt you wasn't unworthy? Those are what I call empty closet moments. And then I automatically go into my story. Why? Because I've established a connection with my audience through a question. So before you tell your story, you want to make sure that you build rapport, and the best way is to ask a question. Now, once you ask that question, you want your audience to take some type of action. So instead of just asking the question, you want to say, raise your hand or stand up. For example, have you ever felt like you was unworthy? Raise your hand if you can relate to this. Raise your hand. Because when you do that, not only are you establishing that connection, but you're deepening that connection by getting them to acknowledge that they can relate to you. So before you tell your story, you want to build that rapport by asking a question and getting your audience to take some type of action. Visit genemosley.com for one-on-one impact storytelling coaching, or to join my impact storytelling program online.